We need good followership in schools. Welcome back, everybody. Here we are at Be Good Leadership, where we talk about leadership, teaching, and learning to create robust and strong school communities. So, we're going to talk about followership today. There's a lot of talk about leadership, and I talk about even when we start these videos, I always talk about leadership, teaching, learning. And I think one of the areas that we need to really focus in on, and it's in every team environment, it's in every organization, it's in every family, is the idea of followership. Because most of us are going to be followers. The vast majority is not because you don't possess leadership ability. Leadership is something that it's not a position. The worst leaders, they like the position, but they don't want to actually do the leading. But there's plenty of people who are leaders who don't have a position of leadership. However, some of the most important people are the followers. And if we're going to get anything done in schools, it takes good followership. Now, there's been a lot of research done about this, and I think that it's important that we're not unrealistic about the reality of teacher engagement and the necessity for good teacher followership to make anything work and to make any kind of progress. And that's followership from students as well. Because I like to point out that if you put me with all my leadership skills or experience, if you put me in an empty room, I can't lead anything. No one's leading in an empty room. Everything depends on other people in there. Leadership is a social endeavor, and it is a leader's responsibility to set clear expectations, to treat people with respect, to check on progress, to provide feedback, to make course corrections with that feedback, right? And to offer support. These are some of the things that a good leader should do, but none of it matters in a school community if the teachers don't do it. If the teachers are not good followers. We talk about leadership, but not enough about good followership. And being a good follower and good followership oftentimes leads to high quality leadership. But I will say this. There are teachers who do intentionally undermine school goals and culture by their insistence to do what they want to do or say they don't believe in what their school is doing. It's interesting because I I understand autonomy, and autonomy is important. It's actually fundamental for anyone who wants to achieve mastery of something. But I think sometimes in education, we take it a bit too far. Because we all have our classroom, sometimes we forget that we're part of a larger culture and a team. And I think you learn this actually very well when you play sports or you play any team sport. If you play a team sport and you've been a good teammate, you know about followership, because as a player, you don't come into a team and decide, a pre-existing team, and decide that they're going to change plays because you like it. Or decide that actually, I know what the team, the plays are. I know what offense you run. I know what the coach really wants. But you know what? It's not my style. I don't believe in that way of play. You're going to be off the team. You're not going to be a provider to that team. You're also not going to influence. And I think that, if you ask I talk to young professionals all the time. I talk to young teachers, even leaders. The best way to be able to influence is to go into a place and begin implementing. Say, okay, this is how you do it here. I'm going to learn how to do it here. And I'm going to give it my best effort to do it well. And after they see that I'm dependable, that I'm someone who wants to be on the team, then I will make suggestions. Then after I've kind of shown what I can do, I'm dependable, I make my commitments, I'm responsible, I'm there in support, they'll probably take what I have to say more seriously later on because I've displayed some good followership at the beginning. And we do have situations where teachers can create a toxic environment by this insistence that I do things a particular way. This is my style, or I don't believe in that, what the school is doing. So if I would say this, unless it's really unethical, unless it's just superbly unethical, which most leaders are not. Thank the universe, thank the Lord, whatever you want to believe. It's really not the end of the world. It's not a battle worth fighting, I think, all the time. And sometimes we kind of stir up a revolution in our heads when actuality, this is just something maybe sometimes annoying that you have to get done. Sometimes it's more work than you want to do. Yes. But I think that we always have to be careful that we're not creating a toxic environment with our resistance. And, this is less likely to happen. I'll say again, the building of a toxic environment and teacher resistance, I will say this caveat, and this is what I teach also and believe, is less likely to happen if there's been built buy-in. If buy-in has been built appropriately, if the goals are based on solid evidence, cognitive science, if you're not trying to ask and implement every shiny new initiative, and if you're not consistently adding to teacher workloads, you're trying to give them time, give them support. If you're doing good leadership, if you're talking to people, keeping them aware of what you're thinking, and not just springing something on them, but giving some time to educate and then get feedback on maybe adjustments or what the teachers know, you're less likely to get some of this behavior. So I will say this. Good followership. Before I talk about what good followership actually looks like and what are the behaviors, what you'll note from these behaviors of a good follower, it's not a sycophant. It's not a wet blanket. So therefore, a bad leader, a toxic leader, a passive-aggressive leader, a weak leader cannot handle and utilize good followership. And oftentimes, a weak leader, cynical leader, passive-aggressive leader, a leader who doesn't have the skills to work with people, to engage in an honest way, to provide feedback and have a two-way conversation and communication. If you don't have that skill set and that ability, you are going to scare off good followerships. You're going to scare off the people who are good followers, the people who will add to your environment and the strength of your culture. You'll lose that. So it's important. Everything starts with leadership. A fish rots from the head, if you will. So it takes a good leader, these good leadership practices that we talk about at begoodleadership.org. Get some of our resources, check it out. Get on the WhatsApp group, audios Monday through Friday about how to do feedback, about good leadership behaviors, about things that work with teachers. They work in the classroom, but they also work in a school building. Get that information. It's all free. We're putting it out there for folks. Get better at leadership so that you can handle and take advantage of good followership. And so let me talk about what a good follower is. Like I said, they're not a sycophant. They're not a wet blanket. So the first thing, good followers make a serious attempt to implement things. I've done it before where I've gone to new schools. I've moved around internationally, moved around in public schools. I can't think of a single school I went to that did everything exactly the way the last school was, right? That had there was different grading systems. There were different resources used, all these kinds of things. And each school was pretty sure they were correct in what they were doing, right? And that this what was best for kids and all these kinds of things. My job was to go to that school, figure out what it was that they were doing there, and begin to give it a shot, to try to implement it to the best of my ability, to become a member of that community that was adding value. So I had to learn first, right? And sometimes when we don't give a serious attempt, when we give sort of a half-assed attempt at implementation of anything, we kind of skirt around, we become toxic, but also we choose not to learn. I've been wrong about plenty of things. There's plenty of things where I was like, I don't think this is going to work. And I gave it a shot to implement and it worked. I've also been right where I thought, hey, I think this is going to be a problem. And it was. But because as a teacher, I never had trouble influencing or working with my administration because they knew that I'm someone who was actually giving it a shot, trying to make things work and trying to be a part of the team. So that's one of the first things we see from good followership. And the crazy thing is there's plenty of coaches, plenty of teachers who've coached teams, and they know this about kids, or they know this about a teammate. They know this in sports, but won't implement it as professionals, right? So yes, it applies everywhere. A serious attempt at implementation of what the team goals are, right? Getting that clarity and then trying to do them. Number two, here's where we start to have trouble with leaders who aren't secure, with leaders who aren't sure in themselves, who aren't practicing good leadership practices. A good follower gives you honest feedback based on the actions taken. So based on that implementation, based on the efforts that they've given and what they've tried, they can also provide honest and good feedback based on that. The feedback is just not, I don't like this. The feedback becomes, hey man, I've been trying this for the last 6 weeks. Here's a bit of something that I've just noticed, and I think maybe there's a gap here, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'm unclear, but can you check this out for me? Can you look at what I'm seeing and see and tell me what you think? There's honest feedback there. One, they're going to be looking for clarity from you as a leader, but two, and most importantly, they're going to let you know, I'm trying this thing here, and it seems not to be working the way we thought, or it's working a little bit, but then there's a little gap here. Those people have to be able to come. And if they come to you and that leader is instantly defensive or doesn't have a clear explanation, doesn't know why we're doing what we're doing, and we're only doing it because at the last leadership conference I saw, it seemed like that's what every other school was doing, so that's why we're doing it. That's not a good answer. You got to be able to explain yourself, right? And to know why we're doing what we're doing. So a good follower, number two, is going to offer, and a leader should expect, offering honest feedback, because that's how we get smarter. Feedback is about learning. Number three, they're willing to adapt, but they're also willing to offer suggestions for course correction. So they're also hey, I'm willing to adapt something. Okay, we have to go in a different direction. A good follower is like, it's not like, oh, okay, now they want us to do this again. I'm not doing that. Well, it's like, okay, so how do we do this effectively? Okay, so we need to adapt. And the good leader, based on that, is saying, hey, these are course corrections made, or we're thinking that we need to go in this direction. The good follower is willing to make the adaptation, but they're also willing to offer course correction suggestions. So I'm willing to adapt, and can I offer something? If that's what we want to do, could I suggest that maybe we get a bit more time after school for working in our own classrooms on some of these things, because they'll take a little bit of extra planning time? Or can I suggest that on one of the work days that we already have scheduled, we leave out sort of that morning time for us to meet in our departments or meet just with our teams so we can plan out and make some of these adjustments? They're willing to actually cut in and make course corrections and say, if you want us to do this, I want to do that. Here's what I think maybe we'll need. And here, can I offer a suggestion? That, and once again, it takes a good leader who's not defensive to be able to listen to that and say, that's a good idea, and why not? Why not use that to course correct? You become smarter. I hope that you see that these followership behaviors, these are serious professionals, people who want to benefit the whole, not just themselves. So that's the other thing. They want to see the school, the environment. They want things to work. And that true commitment, for someone who's not ready for it, comes off looking like resistance. And I will say there are teachers, there are followers who probably could use more work on communication, on how to communicate effectively up as well. That's another video. But in general, trying to make sure that these people want things to work. These are good followers. Don't get defensive, leader. Encourage this. Okay, number 4, a good follower is when something works, they're willing to share it as well. Man, I made this breakthrough and I want to tell someone else about it. This has worked really well for me. I'm willing to share this with somebody. I have met teachers who literally will not share what they find to be effective practice, and it creates toxicity. I've met teachers who've been successful and who wouldn't pass on what they've used to be successful to the next teacher taking their position because, no, it's mine. I created it. That degree of selfishness and that degree of I'm keeping everything to myself, it's mine, me, mine. One, just in your own life, the more you think about and focus on yourself, they've even looked at the brain, the more sad your brain gets, the more likely you are to be depressed and resentful, the more you just think and focus on yourself. However, the more you think about what's good for the whole, the more you think about benefiting people without necessarily needing something immediately in return, the happier you get, the more energy you have. Good followers want the whole team to win. Good followers share practices that are successful. We're very quick to share bad news. Good followers also want to share successes. They want to share and they want to hear about good wins from other people. I've talked about it before, being a fan. Good followers are fans of other people. And being a fan of somebody else, they also want to share what they're learning to help their journey. And number 5, good followership. They take initiative. They don't let the team fail. So much of the time, a practice that I've seen so many times is talking with teachers. And sometimes this is a very tired teacher, dejected teacher. They see something wrong and they don't tell anybody. They're like, well, not my job. They see something that's not consistent with what's trying to be accomplished. Not my job. And remember, working with school leaders and then working with leaders also in the private sector, one of the things that I've noticed many times working with leaders in the private sector, there's a team of 4, a team of 6, maybe a big team sometimes is, I manage a team of 9 people, 10 people. I've worked with administrators in schools who have 27, 40 teachers that they have to oversee, look at, support. Not to mention 500 to 1,000 kids. Not to mention parents they have to deal with. You have to be a good follower knows that the coach, the leader, whoever is not going to be able to see everything. And they're going to have to take initiative to support, sometimes course correct, and sometimes just help out somebody who the coach can't always get to. I remember in sports, man, that guy is missing his assignment. Hey, he missed it. Did you help him? Did you tell him? If I tell the coach, try to tell on somebody, did you do anything about it? Or if I didn't tell the coach and I didn't do anything about it, I probably need to be on the bench because I'm not a good teammate. So I think that that's really important. I think that we get tired. Sometimes we get unmotivated, overwhelmed, and we stop taking initiative. We stop looking at, hey, I wasn't asked to do this, but I know that this would help in this regard. It's either taking the initiative to actually start doing it or come back to somebody and tell them, hey, here's a course correction. This is something I think we can really work out that we should really be thinking about. Or seeing someone who's, shucking a responsibility, doing something that actually is going to be detrimental to the whole school community. Care enough to say something, care enough to course correct, care enough to at least make a mention that you saw it. Sometimes just mentioning to someone that you saw something, that you just noticed something that was not on the up and up gets them to adjust and change. We need good followership. And so those are the 5 things. 1, good followers implement. 2, they offer honest feedback based on the actions that they're actually taking. 3, they're willing to adapt and then offer suggestions for course correction. They come to you with ideas. 4, when something works, they're willing to share success. They want to share success in what's working with the team, not just the negatives. And 5, they take initiative. They don't want to just let the team fail. They don't stay quiet while they see things falling apart. We need good followership in school communities. You can teach all of these versions of followership to students in classrooms. But once again, you can teach it to people in a family. But once again, if we want good followership that actually creates a higher level of competence for the entire community, whether it be a community inside of a classroom, the school in general, community outside in your own society, in our own country, everything else, it takes strong leadership. It takes strong leadership to teach good followership and to value it and be grateful for it as it creates a better and better team. You guys be good. See you next time.